Hey trainers! As we step into the exciting realms of Pokémon Unite Season 18, it's time to elevate your gameplay. In today's guide, we're delving deep into the standout Pokémon for every role, providing you with the insights you need to dominate the battlefield. Whether you're an experienced trainer or just starting your Unite journey, this is your go-to source for mastering Season 18. So, grab your Pokeballs, let's strategize, and embark on this thrilling journey together. Let the Pokémon Unite festivities commence. Speedsters. The arena's nimble inhabitants, the Speedsters, represented by Pokémon like Greninja and Talonflame, continue to zip across the battlefield. Their unparalleled speed and agility make them masters of goal scoring and map control. If swift and precise gameplay is your forte, a Speedster might just be the key to unlocking victory. Having recently received buffs to just about everything. Meowscarada doesn't have a build that isn't winning right now, whether you like Trailblaze and Night Slash, or you like Double Team and Flower Trick more. Even mixing those moves together seems to provide incredible results. Let's talk about the more popular build right now. Trailblaze Night Slash, I would say a much easier build to use than Double Team Flower Trick, and it's providing amazing results not only due to the fact that this Pokemon has gotten buffs to the cooldowns of its moves, but also one of the biggest things about Meowscarada's entire kit got a buff, and that is its Unite move. Meowscarada's Unite move is on an insanely low cooldown, and it does so much damage when playing this build. I like to run Muscle Band, Scope Lens, and then a third item of your choice. I think things like Charging Charm and Float Stone are extremely good for positioning, while things like Weakness Policy, Attack Weight, even AOS Cookie are pretty solid for brawling and doing tons of damage. In my opinion, your battle item, without question, has to be an eject button, and the reason is Meowscarada Unite move can be redirected with an eject button after you use it, and it's one of the ways that you pick up so many coasts inside this game. If there's anything I can beg you to do with this Pokemon, run eject button, and then use your Unite move and redirect it so you chase down your opponents that don't expect it. You're going to clean up enemy teams with this. For an emblem loadout, you're looking at a classic 6 white 6 brown Leafeon, and we're going to be talking about a Leafeon build that recently just got a buff, that is Razor Leaf and Aerial Ace. There's no question that Solar Blade is still amazing on this Pokemon, but just like Meowscarada, Leafeon really doesn't have a kit that isn't good right now, with Aerial Ace receiving a cooldown buff, a damage buff, and also your boosted attacks receiving a damage buff. This is now sort of the most exciting Speedster Leafeon build inside the game. The other build feels more like an attacker to me. For health items, I would recommend an Attack Weight, Energy Amp, Razor Claw. Something like a Float Stone or Charging Charm also works really well if you don't like stacking and Attack Weight. It feels almost like a must to have Energy Amp on this Pokemon. Oh, and I should mention on Meowscarada, one of my absolute favorite items also to run is an Energy Amplifier. You just get your Unite move so often, and it's so impactful with this Pokemon. For battle items, I could see running an Eject or a full heal on this Pokemon just to make sure you don't get stunned when you actually jump in for your big Unite move. Emblems are going to be just about the same, 6 brown 6 white. I think an important thing to notice with Leafeon is how to really make this combo sing by throwing your Razor Leaf and then following your opponents with your Aerial Ace, using an Aerial Ace into a boosted into an Aerial Ace into a boosted, and then finally finishing them off by bringing those leaves back to you. It's extremely satisfying. For our final Speedster, I feel like they get talked about a lot. Let's talk about a Speedster that I think people are sleeping on a bit, and that's Zeraora. I like running Volt Switch Discharge for Zeraora, but let's talk about a build based around Spark and Discharge. This sets Zeraora up to be a little less of sort of a Devane, do some damage, and pull out, and more of an assassin in those moments. The held items for Zeraora here are Razor Claw. It works so well with Spark that an Energy Amplifier is one of my favorite things to run on it. But if you don't like running Energy Amplifier, I could see running things like a Weakness Policy, a Muscle Band, a Charging Charm to do a lot of extra damage. I think the important thing notice with Zeraora, and I think a lot of people don't actually realize this, is when you use your Discharge. If you use it and actually hit an enemy, you generate a massive shield. If you use Discharge before you hit an enemy, you do not get a shield. It's extremely important to cast this move when you're next to an enemy. That way you're going to survive for a very, very long time. I think an Eject button is a great battle item for this setup, because sometimes you're going to need to get out of a fight that you got yourself into when your Spark is no longer up, and it is on cooldown. You also can run a Shinja doll on a Discharge build, and it works really, really well because your damage still continues while you're inside the doll. For emblems, you could run a 6 brown 6 white. I think that's very, very good. There is also a cooldown emblem setup for a Pokemon like this that's pretty solid. I would probably run this if you were running Energy Amplify, so you're really moving into the extra cooldowns you get with something like this. Venturing into the versatile realm of all-rounders, Pokemon like Garchomp and Lucario emerge as prime choices. With adaptability at their core, All-rounders seamlessly transition between different roles, making them valuable assets in a multitude of team compositions. Whether you need to push objectives or safeguard your base, an all-rounder offers the flexibility you crave. Mewtwo X. There's no question that Mewtwo coming back into the meta means that Mewtwo is going to do very well inside the meta, even though Mewtwo X and Mewtwo Y got nerfed recently, that nerf being that AOS energy is now consumed when they mega, and they can mega for a shorter amount of time. Because of this, Mewtwo is still incredibly powerful inside the game. I think without question you're going to want to run Recover as its second move. Its first move, either Future Sight or S-Strike, are both very good. S-Strike, however, giving you the ability to be unstoppable for a moment and get out of horrible situations, is probably the way to go on Mewtwo. Mewtwo X is an interesting Pokemon because I think it's now more often played as almost a support-like brawler. It's still incredibly powerful, does a lot of damage, lives kind of forever, and disrupts the enemy team. I think S-Strike Recover is probably the strongest move set for that reason. Before we get into held items, some people may disagree with me, but I honestly think Potion might be the best battle item on a Pokemon like this. There are some other options that you can run, but with how good Recover is, how much HP you have, how tanky you are in situations, Potion just lets you live through some ridiculous things. Of course, you could run Z, you could run a Jaw Button, you could probably run X Attack, Slow Smoke, and even do very well, but I honestly think Potion's a pretty good battle item. For Mewtwo, for held items, I think Mewtwo is one of the most diverse Pokemon. In fact, not only Mewtwo but all-rounders in general have such a wide variety of items that they could pick up from Mewtwo. Things like Weakness Policy are amazing. Of course, you could stack on this Pokemon. Items like Curse Bangle are very good to continue to give your team that extra oomph and reduce the enemy healing while you're brawling with them. Focus Band Residential Resent Guard is extremely good on this Pokemon. Mewtwo has a ton of HP, is very tanky, and can play in a lot of different scenarios. For boost emblems, you guessed it, 6 brown 6 white. We were not talking about one of the most brutal in the game, and that is Buzzwole. Buzzwole feels like an X-Pokemon in their own, since I know they're an Ultra Beast, but my goodness, this thing is insanely powerful, truly one of the best Pokemon in the game. In the right hands, the real trick to Buzz's kit is understanding how Superpower works, especially Superpower once you hit that level 11 breakpoint. When you hit level 11 and get Superpower Plus every time your muscle gauge is filled, you reset the cooldown of this move. You can use this to combo Buzzwole in some insane ways. Superpower into a smackdown, hitting them in air with your autos right back into a superpower, and it just deletes people almost instantly. Buzzwole truly is broken. I think this Pokemon should get some nerfs, but here we are for held items. I personally like double stacking on Buzzwole, so I like an attack weight and an AOS cookie. You're extremely mean in lane. It's not too difficult to get your stacks early, and once you hit level 5, you're more powerful than most everything in the game for a while, so you can really use that to dominate your lane and get all of your stacks. For the third item, I personally like a Float Stone. I think it gives you a nice little bit of extra attack, a little bit of extra move speed, and then when you're out of combat for a moment, it lets you position very well. Other good options are things like Resident Guard, Weakness Policy, or a Focus Band. For emblems, 6 brown 6 white. Come on, you knew that. And then for battle items, I personally prefer an eject button so that you're able to more easily land things like your Unite move or get some really sneaky combos by closing the distance very fast on your opponents. Our next all-rounder is one that I think the community is sleeping on a little bit, and that is Metagross. Metagross had a weird release with it being pretty underpowered, then they kind of overbuffed it, then they had to pull it back, but I think Metagross is actually still phenomenally good, and not enough people play it. Both Meteor Mash and Euro Ball have a ton of value in general. I think Euro Ball is going to do a little bit better for you, but if you like the extra oomph that you get from the pop of Meteor Mash, I could totally see why you would want to run that. My build for Metagross is an attack weight. You need to stack the extra attack for your shields, a Weakness Policy. This also helps you get massive shields inside of a fight, and then your third item is either going to be a Muscle Band or Razor Claw. I personally love Razor Claw, but Muscle Band does incredibly well on this Pokemon. You get a little extra attack speed too, so it's a faster to get. Your boosted will help you reset Euro Ball, and as long as you can aim your Euro Ball correctly and you can keep your opponents in that outside ring for a moment, you can set up easy situations where you're kind of unable for a huge amount of the fight. For a battle item, I like running Zed on this Pokemon. It really lets you position yourself in some of these fights very well. I think an eject button or a full heal is also a very reasonable option. Your emblems, come on, I mean 6 brown 6 white. Have you ever heard of it? Metagross really is a Pokemon that I think people are sleeping on and they forgot about, and I'll talk about one that I don't know if we're sleeping on. Charizard proves to be a versatile and dynamic Pokemon that can adapt to various in-game scenarios. Beginning as Charmander and evolving through Charmeleon to Charizard, it offers a combination of melee and ranged attacks. Early in the match, the Flame Burst move aids in farming and harassing opponents. As Charizard evolves, Fire Punch at level 4 provides mobility and damage, while Seismic Slam at level 6 excels in crowd control. Flamethrower, unlocked at level 9, unleashes a sustained stream of fire for powerful teamfight presence. For an all-around build, consider items like Wise Glasses to boost special attack, Muscle Band for increased basic attack damage and a chance to slow enemies, and Focus Band to enhance survivability. Fluffy Tail aids in securing objectives, and Score Shield contributes to scoring goals effectively. The key to success lies in adapting the build based on the evolving dynamics of the match and collaborating with teammates for coordinated plays in the fast-paced Pokémon Unite battles. Next all-rounder, well, I guess it's time for X-Pokémon because it is Zacian. Zacian recently got a slew of buffs, and here's the thing, it got nerfed a little while back, and it was kind of bad, and now it got buffed, and it's right back to being an X-monster. There's a lot to say about Zacian, and I think it kind of requires a more in-depth conversation about this Pokemon and using its intrepid sword, making sure you always have 8 AOS energy so you can activate your second move. In general, I still think Agility Sacred Sword's the way to go, but there are a lot of Metal Claw believers out there. Your held items are going to be Rusted Sword. You got to, they don't let you put anything else there. That was how they balanced this Pokemon, by the way. Do you remember that? And your other items are either going to be a Razor Claw Muscle Band or a Rapid Fire Scarf Muscle Band. Your auto attacks do a ton with this Pokemon, and I think now that you don't have critical hit, it's probably not going to be ideal to run a scope lens anymore on Zacian. For me, the battle item is an eject button. I feel like you can set up some really exciting plays with this, but I could see someone running a full heal. I don't know if you'd run Zed, but you probably could just to stick sick to your opponent. Sometimes your boost emblems are going to be brace yourselves here, 6 brown, 6 white. I know I'm shocked too. Before we move on from all-rounders, I want to give a special shout-out to a few Pokemon. I think Blazin is awesome still right now. I think Mimikyu is doing crazy good. Even some all-rounders that people don't talk about as much, like Lucario, is doing very well inside the game. There are so many good all-rounders, but I wanted to highlight a few in this video. Moving on from our all-rounders, supporters play a strategic role, not only healing their teammates but also disrupting the enemy's plans. With moves like Pollen Puff and Aromatherapy, supporters can turn the tide of battle by healing allies and providing status condition relief. Understanding when and how to deploy these crucial moves is key to maximizing their effect. Eligo's a Pokemon that not only supports extremely well, but also carries super hard inside of lane early, or path as the game calls it. This thing is just so incredibly mean. My favorite build, Rapid Fire Scarf Muscle Band EXP. Share because it's just so good on this Pokemon, and an X attack you auto so fast early with this Pokemon, and you really shut everything down. Eligo's is one of the first build. This build focuses a little more on doing damage, but Cotton Spore is also a pretty supportive move in its own right with how it disrupts the enemy. Obviously, you're throwing your Pollen Puffs as much as you can, making sure that they are landing on enemies and allies alike to heal. If you're moving in for an engagement, you can throw one on an enemy and then move forward with Spore, making sure you're near them so that it knocks them up and slows their move speed. Being knocked up and slowed really does change things in some pretty big ways, and this makes Eligos more of a frontline battler with your opponents moving in and out at different times when your Cotton Spore is up to disrupt the enemy team for boost emblems on this build. It's one of the only Pokemon in the game I can recommend running 7 red. I love running it on this Pokemon. You just get so much attack speed, and honestly, it is a real treat to be mean. Clefable, look, Blissey is right there with it. Blissey is insane right now, but Cab is just, it's the GOAT. The build is Moonlight and then Gravity, or depending on the opposing team, Moonlight. Follow Me. I actually think Follow Me probably has more use cases, but you will see certain enemies that you need to run Gravity into. If the enemy has a Zoroark, a Scissor, basically anything that needs to dash in and really do some fancy footwork, you shut down their entire game with Gravity. If they don't have that, Follow Me is incredible, and the shield is massive for items you want to run an EXP share. I think you want to run a special attack specs so that you can stack and get more out of your healing, and then your third item really is personal preference. Some people like Buddy Barrier. I personally often run Energy Amplifier, so I get my Unite move a little bit faster, and I do some more damage with Clefable's Unite, which is actually really powerful. Your battle item, I think you want to run Z just so you can stay near your allies and heal them. There isn't a ton to talk about strategy-wise with Clefable outside of some of the really cool interactions with Follow Me, where you can kind of jump into the enemy team and convince them to all turn towards you for a moment, setting up huge things like Gardevoir War Unite moves. But in general, your job is to stay alive and keep your allies alive, stay near them. Continue to heal them, make sure you're positioning yourself well so you're not in front of your team and get caught. The longer that you are around, the longer that your team is around, and the easier it is to win. We could talk about Blissey right here, but we don't talk about Blissey. No, we don't talk about Blissey. Let's talk about another Pokemon that I think does deserve a little love and actually some people thought was going to be shut down. Wigglytuff. There's no question that Wiggly does worse into blind pick than it does into draft. If you're able to see what your opponents are running and you know that they don't have a Ride-On or an Umbreon, Wiggly gets even more value. But even still with those Pokemon, I think Wiggly is doing amazing inside the game right now, and I don't think Meridian shuts it down that hard. The build is going to be Dazzling Gleam and Sing. Now, of course, if you see certain things on the enemy team and you decide you can't run Sing, you could run Roll Out, but I still think you can run Sing on this Pokemon EXP Share Resident Guard. And then your third item, I actually like to stack an AOS cookie on this Pokemon. It's pretty easy to do. Wiggly is a very mean Pokemon early in the game, and it's kind of easy to throw a lot of your stacks around. You also, of course, could run things like a Focus Band or a Buddy Barrier. Of course, what Wiggly would hate to run into is an Umbreon. You're going to have to time your Unite moves around Umbreon to make sure that they don't end up stealing all of your shields. However, if you do that, your Unite move is still insanely impactful. The emblems for Wiggly are a little different than some of the ones we've talked about so far. This is going to be 6 green, 6 white. You get a little extra special attack, you get a ton of extra HP. In fact, I've seen some people run 4 green, 6 white, and they just focus all of their effort into extra HP. It totally makes sense on a tank like this. For your battle item, I would recommend Zed, so you can get near opponents with your Sing. You also could run an eject button. For rollout, I think you kind of have to run an eject button because you can make your rollout hit multiple times with it. It's very cheesy, but honestly very fun. Moving on from our supporters. Our first contenders in the spotlight are the attackers. As Season 18 unfolds, Pokemon like Cinderace and Lucario are seizing the limelight. With their potent combination of high damage output and remarkable agility, attackers are poised to become the KO's champions. Choosing an attacker that aligns with your unique playstyle is your key to turning every battle into a victory. I'm talking about Meridian. Meridian is without question the best Pokemon inside of Pokémon Unite right now, our newest legendary EX thing. That is very mean. There really is no wrong build on this Pokemon given that it's so broken all around. However, I would say the best is going to be Charge Beam Thunder. I thought you might need Parabolic Charge for this, but you really don't. Thunder is up so often, it's so easy to hit your charge beams, and if you hit 2 charge beams, whether it's on an enemy Pokemon or a wild Pokemon, you get this insane boosted charge beam that is somehow a move and not a Unite move, which is it's just crazy. There isn't a lot to say about Meridian strategically. When you're playing this setup, you just need to stay far away from your opponents, continue to bombard them with absurd amounts of damage, and just wreck them. This is another one of these Pokemon where if played from the central area and you hit 5 head up into the lane, you can actually just sit there and destroy the on their own goal zone with Charge Beam. In general, I think Marin is maybe a little less powerful than Mew X and Zacian on release, but it's our newest legendary menace. For held items, I've been running a Slick Spoon-wise glasses and then something else, either a Choice Specs or a Curse Enhance. I think Curse is actually really good for this Pokemon. You're constantly doing damage at extreme range, so opponents will naturally run back to goal zones and things like that. This also increases is the effectiveness of your Hadron engine that will give you the ability to disable enemy goal zones and lower their healing. Now you're just lowering their healing even more. Yeah, it's a Meridian. What are you going to say for emblems? I would run Black Green 7 Black 6 Green Delphox with Fire Spin and Fire Blast. You can run Mystical Fire to lower the cooldown of your Fire Spin even more, but I found you actually get so much more value out of Fire Blast because your damage just goes through the roof. For this Pokemon, you're going to want an Energy Amplifier. It unites on an insanely low cooldown, and it's so powerful. Slick Spoon, because it's a special attacker, and every special attacker has a Slick Spoon. And then your third item really is up to you. If you're in lane, I would say Choice Specs are probably the way to go. That way you can secure some farm. If you're not, I think Curse Incense is pretty amazing. I also have been running Shell Bell on it just to kind of increase the cooldown even more. In general, you're fire spinning a ton and just disrupting the enemy team in some amazing ways with Delphox. Your emblems are definitely going to be 6 green 7 black extra cooldown extra special attack. For a battle item, I think most mages do very well with an eject button. You could run an X speed to get away from some situations as well. I could definitely see that being valuable. There isn't really much else you would want to run on a Pokemon like this. Let's move away from our special attackers and let's talk about Dragapult. For a little bit, yes, Dragapult recently received some nerfs, but it's still the best auto-attack Pokemon inside the game. That is attack-based, we're not talking yet about Mewtwo, however we will because Mew is back, let's talk. About P Phantom Force Shadow Ball still seems to be the strongest build for this Pokemon. I like running a muscle. Banned Rapid Fire Scarf, and a Scope Lens. I know some people have swapped out the Rapid Fire Scarf, but I just find that there are so many situations where that extra attack speed is still very valuable for a battle item. I think Eject Button is probably the best thing you can run on a Pokemon like this. It just gives you the ability to avoid insane amounts of damage from the enemy team. The real strategy with Dragapult is trying to get a couple KOs early and then really doubling down on picking up KOs from the enemy team. You are essentially stacking an internal attack weight when you were using Phantom Force, so you want to make sure that you're getting all of those KOs so you can get as powerful as possible. Don't feel weird about chasing down a K or really trying to get a last hit on something. It's extremely important, and make sure you're using your Unite move to do that as well. The more KOs you get, the more valuable you will be for your team. For emblems 6 brown 6 white, hey, remember those. They're back. Our next attacker is Mewtwo. Mewtwo is back, and while it's not the best attacker in the game, it's still incredibly good. There's no question that it is one of the top attackers that you can choose inside of Pokemon Unite. Let's talk about the moves really quickly. Ever since Recover got nerfed on Mew, I actually don't think it is a very valuable choice. I think your second move is going to be Teleport, and then outside of that it's either SI Strike or Future Sight. I think those are really based on personal preference, how you like to play this Pokemon and what you were able to do to your opponents, how you like to zone them out, or whether you like sort of S-Strike's ability to knock up enemies, of course, do some damage to them, and then also give you sort of a get out of jail free card with all the stuns inside of Pokemon Unite. The build from Mew is Slick Spoon, Muscle Band, Rapid Fire Scarf. Your auto attacks are so incredibly important for a battle item. I love to run an X attack. You just want to lean into what this Pokemon already does well, which is auto attack in a crazy way. Once you hit your Mega Form, boom, pop your X attack. You could throw your Unite move at the same time for that extra damage that you get when you become Mega. I mean, it's just so many great things, and on top of that, throwing that X attack just lets you attack in a rapid fire pace, even faster than a rapid fire Scarf. For emblem loadouts, this is another Pokemon that actually takes advantage of 7 red. Let's shift our focus to the stalwart defenders. The ever-reliable Snorlax and the formidable Crustle continue to hold their ground. Armed with robust defenses and crowd-controlling prowess, defenders are the unsung heroes on the battlefield. Stick close to your team, absorb the enemy's onslaught, and disrupt their plans. The defender's role is essential in shaping the outcome of every battle. Trevenant got a weird change, so it got a slight nerf to its Wood Hammer, but don't stress about Wood Hammer. Wood Hammer is still insanely good. The damage is crazy, and then the combo between the two Wood Hammers is nuts. The repositioning of your opponents, even though it got a cooldown reduction, it's still incredibly good. However, both Curse and Pain Split got buffs, and they are really good. The most popular build and kind of the newest exciting one right now is Curse Pain Split together, but I really do think basically any combination of Trevenant moves are very solid. You're going to want to stack on this Pokemon. I personally often double stack with an attack weight and an AOS cookie. Your next item could be a weakness policy Focus Band. Resident Guard. There are a lot of great options for a defender like this, and Resident Guard being so good, I often am playing attack weight AOS cookie Resident Guard. You're extremely tanky. You get shields all the time, and your attack weight gives you tons of damage. Curse and Pain Split together are really nice. You Pain Split a high HP opponent. This will do a few things. It's going to give you a ton of HP recovery. If you're lower HP percentage than your opponent, you get this massive HP recovery. You are also reflecting a ton of damage back onto them that you take from any of your opponents. You are then using Curse to sort of follow them around doing crazy damage, and if your Curse gauge is full, this is something to notice. It will reset your second move. So if you're running Curse and Pain Split, you will reset your Pain Split. It'll come off cooldown. You'll easily be able to attach it to that enemy again, or attach it to a different enemy that could be higher HP. You could set up some crazy moments with this. You could also run this with Horn Leech to give yourself massive resets on this and just sort of move your enemies around the map in some crazy ways for a battle item. I like running a Jaw button on Trevant or in Zed is very good for this Curse moveset. However, Pain Split is going to give you some ability to catch up with your opponents, so you may want to be able to redirect yourself with an J button for your boost emblems. It's going to be 6 brown 6 white, but something to notice is I like running a setup that gives you a little more HP and some Negative critical hit. You don't do critical hits on Trevant, so you don't need to worry about it for your defenders. You want to run a little tankier of a setup than you do for some of your other attack-based Pokemon. Umbreon. Every build with Umbreon is very good. I personally like Foul Play and Snarl best, especially in solo queue, but there's no question that Mean Look Wish is a disgusting build, and especially against the right kind of Pokemon. It's so unbelievably dumb. I cannot believe they have not nerfed this setup yet. You're going to want to run EXXP Share. You don't need a lot of experience at all with Umbreon to be very, very good, and this will power up your allies and force you to not have to worry so much about farming. You're going to want to run a Resident Guard, because it's crazy dummy good on defenders right now, and then an attack weight I like. Stacking on this, you also could run an AOS cookie for some extra HP. I know some people also like running a weakness policy when you're playing the Wish setup. Specifically, you're going to get more healing out of having an attack weight or a weakness policy, so I think that's a very good choice. Your battle item, either Eject Button or Z-Die. Actually really like Eject Button because you can set up some mean stuff with your Unite move. A big thing too. Remember with this Pokemon, a couple big things actually. First off, when you are keeping an opponent inside of a mean look, you're generating tons of boosted attacks, which is going to heal you like crazy. Your next thing to remember, and I'm sure you know this, is that your Unite move steals shields. Wait for a Pokemon with a big time shield to use a Unite move, and then just watch them sadly go down as you take the entire thing away. I'm looking at you. Blastoise. I'm taking your shield buddy for emblems just like Trevant. 6 brown, 6 white, negative critical hit. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Moving on to a Pokemon that I'm going to steal their shields of. Blastoise really is too. Setups that work very well. You can use the Surf High Drop Pump, or you can do Rapid Spin and Water Spout ones. Obviously more of a carry build. That's the Rapid Spin build. You're almost playing this as a top lane sort of all-rounder like carry Pokemon, or you're running Surf High Drop Pump, one of the most annoying setups inside of Pokemon Unite with what seems to be an infinite amount of stuns for your opponents. Let's talk about playing this Pokemon as more of a defender rather than playing it as sort of a damage dealer, so we're going to talk about Surf Pump, Hydro Pump, and Surf On. This Pokemon, the resets of this are insane. Like I said, for your items, we're going to run this as a really supportive tank Pokemon, so you can play this with X-Share Resident Guard and a Slick Spoon if you don't want EXP Share and you want to focus more on damage. You can run a Muscle Band, because you're going to be autoing a lot with this Pokemon, and the extra attack speed is nice. You also could run things like an Energy Amp for your Unite move, because it's crazy good, and of course you could stack. This Pokemon actually scales really well off of its special attack stat. For a battle item, you have to run an Eject Button on Blastoise. I really don't think there's any other option. You can move your Unite move to catch more opponents. I don't think there's anything else you should be running on this Pokemon. You want to make sure that when you hit that Unite, you hit as many people as possible on the opposing team, and Eject Button lets you do that. Your emblem setup is going to be 6 white, 6 green. Lots of extra tankiness, lots of extra special attack for Blastoise. Oh, also this build does have 3 black attached to it as well, so a little extra cooldown. Our final defender I'm going to talk about is Crustle. That's right. The nerfs don't stop me from talking about Crustle, because Crustle is still insane inside of Pokemon Unite, even with the nerfed X-Scissor, because X-Scissor is nuts. We're going to talk about a Rock Tomb X-Scissor build. I think the big thing to notice with this Pokemon is not only does your Unite move stun, but if you hit enemies into a wall, that wall could include your own Rock Tomb. You will stun them for a massively long amount of time, 1.5 seconds of stun. If you hit them into any wall, that's why even though they've nerfed the damage of X-Scissor, they have really not nerfed its efficiency. In fact, even with that, some people are now running Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock has always been and is still very good. The held item build I'm going to talk about is going to be heavily focused on helping your team, while also being a massive tank. Resident Guard, either Focus Band attack weight or a Buddy Barrier and an EXP Share. I don't even know if you need to run an attack weight on this. You still get so much value without stack packing up this Pokemon that you could just simply want to give out insanely large Buddy Barriers or have a Focus Band for survival. EXP SH is great on a Pokemon like this because it evolves at level 4 and it doesn't need a ton of experience to get online, similar to something like an Umbreon. Maybe not as Umbreon is like all the EVs are, but similar to something like that. You get a ton of value out of running an EXP Share. On this Pokemon, of course, you could still play Shell Smash X-Scissor and go for a critical hit build, but I honestly don't think you need to do that on this Pokemon anymore. I think just play it as a horribly mean defender. Your battle item is going to be an Eject Button. You can use this to reposition yourself for your Unite, or more importantly often, Times for your X scissors so that you can knock opponents into walls. Crustle is still killing it inside of Pokemon Unite. Even with the nerfs, the emblem loadout that you're looking for is going to be that 6 white 6 brown 2 blue with a little extra reduced critical hit so you get more HP. And there you have it, trainers, a comprehensive guide to the top Pokemon for every role in Season 18. Your journey to the top of the ranks begins with the careful selection of these Pokemon. Remember, mastery of their unique abilities is the secret to success. Don't miss out on the latest Pokemon Unite tips and strategies. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Until next time, may your battles in Season 18 be epic and your victories legendary. Explore more Pokemon Unite guides for advanced strategies. Subscribe now for the latest insights and become a Pokemon Unite pro. Your journey to mastery awaits. See you on the battlefield.